So if you've been around the channel for any extended period of time, you've probably heard me use the phrase styles make matchups several times, and today that absolutely rings true. Because today we need to preview Oklahoma taking on Florida State in the Cheez-it Bowl, because this is a game I think is going to be really interesting. One we absolutely need to break down, but before we can, as always, y'all know the drill, I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe the Oklahoma Sooners could pull off a big upset? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive, and we're trying to see how close we can get to 20,000 subscribers before the new year. I know, huge, lofty goal, but the support y'all have shown is unbelievable, and I'd love to have you a part of this amazing community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And even if we're talking about outside-in perspectives, this is a very interesting game. Mike Norvell went from being on the hot seat to leading one of the nation's most intriguing teams in 2022. I don't think anybody in college football expected Florida State to be as good as they were, and the Oklahoma Sooners, Brent Venables is trying to not start his career as a head coach with a losing season, especially at Oklahoma, where there is such a winning, rich tradition. So this game is really interesting, and that's before we even start diving in to the stylistic approaches of each team, where I think it gets even more intriguing. So let's do that. We need to start with Oklahoma's offense against Florida State's defense, and unfortunately for the Oklahoma Sooners offense, you've got some bad news. Not only are you set to be missing 3 of your starting offensive linemen, but one of the most efficient and effective pieces on your offense, Eric Gray, is not going to be playing. On top of that, Marcus Major isn't going to be playing either. And Eric Gray was a huge part of this offense. He was a real big catalyst that made it go and allowed them to stack successful plays. So how Jeff Lebby accounts for this loss is something I'm really interested in seeing. Now, let's not make any mistake about it. Oklahoma has very talented running backs. Barnes is a very talented dude. Sawchuk is a very talented dude. And in fact, stylistically, I think Sawchuk could be someone we see some in this bowl game because his spark could really provide a catalyst for this Oklahoma offense, but I digress. So even though you have some very talented guys, Eric Gray not playing is something that is a big hit to this Oklahoma offense, and it's only compounded when we look and Wanye Morris isn't playing. Anton Harrison isn't playing, and Andrew Rame isn't playing. So 3 of the starting 5 are not going to be present on that offensive line. That's going to be something big for Oklahoma to overcome, especially when we look at the opposite side of the football, and this is a Florida State team that's generated 34 sacks on the year. This is a Florida State team that comes in as a top 15 total defense, number 2 against the pass, and number 60 against the rush, which if you were Oklahoma, originally you'd have been feeling very confident in if you had your complete offensive line and Eric Gray, but you don't have either of those things. So even though you could attack Florida State on the ground, you're not at full strength in that capacity, which is why I'm so intrigued to see what Jeff Lebby does. Now, for Dillon Gabriel in this game, a lot is going to come down to him. Naturally, he's the quarterback, but especially without some of the pieces they have, this is going to be a lot put on his shoulders. I'm interested to see how much he uses his legs, especially with Florida State being much more efficient against the pass than they are against the run, and we saw, such as the Baylor game, whenever opportunities presented themselves, Gabriel was able to get out the pocket and generate some positive plays. And when he did that, the Oklahoma Sooners were able to stack successful plays and stack a full drive. And when we look at this season, one of the biggest issues with Oklahoma is the time of possession battle, where they are consistently losing that battle. And that's something against Florida State you cannot do. And that's exactly why I led this off saying styles make matchups. That's the stylistic approach in this one. Florida State has got an offensive attack that will suffocate you if you are not able to keep your offense on the field. And the best way for Oklahoma to handle that Florida State offense is by making sure they are off the field and the Oklahoma offense stays on the field. So for Oklahoma, continuing drives is a must in this game. And why is it a must? Well, let's flip the script. Now let's talk about Oklahoma's defense against this Florida State offense. And this Florida State offense is really effective rushing the football. Whenever we look, they're 12th in total offense, they're 40th in passing offense, but they're 12th in rushing offense. And Oklahoma, likewise, is very efficient as a rushing offense. They come in at number 13 in rushing offense, but like I said, they don't have 3 of their starting linemen, and they don't have Eric Gray, who is huge for the Sooners this season. On the flip side, Florida State is not expecting these opt-outs, and they have very talented running back play. Benson has been a problem all season long, and it's not just relegated to Benson. We've seen several of those guys have breakout performances, and to cap it all off, Jordan Travis is a mobile quarterback. And so if Oklahoma keys in on one of the running backs, he could really hurt you with his mobility. That's absolutely something that's going to really hurt this Oklahoma defense in trying to figure out who they can commit to. Especially when we look at the Oklahoma defense, and it's a defense that has struggled so much. Oklahoma ranks 122nd in total defense, 108th against the rush, and 111th against the pass. Unfortunately, when you're playing Florida State, that leaves multiple avenues for them to be able to attack your defense. And unfortunately for Oklahoma, I think when we look at how this season has gone, and you've lost the time of possession battle so frequently, Florida State's going to be aware of that. They're going to be aware that they can play suffocating football. They can be aware that they can just keep the ball on the ground and really force Oklahoma to stack the box before they start taking shots over top. This is something I'm really intrigued to see, because Brent Venables has got to find an answer for this Florida State offense, which is so multiple in terms of you don't know whether a running back's going to take it. You don't know whether Travis is going to take it. There's a lot of different ways where they can get you off balance and get you into positions that are advantageous for success for Florida State. This is why I say styles make matchups. Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners have ran a bend but don't break defense, and they're going up against an offense that wants to stay on the field, that wants to extend drives. They want to keep the opposing defense on the field, and by extension, keep the opposing offense off the field. And unfortunately for Oklahoma, the best way for you to combat that is by doing their own strategy. Keep your offense on the field so that your defense doesn't have to go up against a rushing attack that is a top 15 rushing attack and is very efficient from multiple different facets. This is going to be a really intriguing game. I'm also very interested to see how the young guys play for Oklahoma, the guys who will get an opportunity to play in relief of some of the guys who aren't playing. And let's not make any mistake about this. If Oklahoma can get some things going, they have weapons, especially in the wide receiver room. They have got some very talented weapons. I'm really interested to see how Farouk is utilized. But at the end of the day, some of the opt-outs Oklahoma has had are going to make it pretty difficult to go up against this Florida State team that's at much more of a full strength as compared to the Oklahoma Sooners. And especially when we look that Oklahoma is not going to be with 3 of their starting offensive linemen, and this is a Florida State defense that's generated 34 sacks, that's going to be tough. So at the beginning of this video, I asked you, do you think that Oklahoma could pull off an upset? And one thing we understand, football is football. Anything could happen at any time, but I think it's going to be very difficult. And if you ask me right now who I thought would win this game, I'd say Florida State, because I just think they have such a balanced attack on offense, and I think stylistically, it's a tough matchup for the Oklahoma Sooners, a team that struggled so much against rushing teams and effective rushing teams. Well, now you're going up against a team with multiple running backs that have been really good all season and a quarterback that's averaging almost 5 yards a pop whenever he decides to run the football. That is something I really am interested to see how Brent Venables slows down, and I'm also really interested to see how Jeff Lebby keeps that offense on the field. But hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking about this game. That's it. See you.